The Coromandel is a great place for a fishing adventure. Today the team heads off to some great fishing spots.
Yep, there's a big fish on here.
Kirk heads out to see what is lurking in the depths way offshore and gets a few surprises.
That's why I come out fishing to these far and wide destinations on the ski.
Darren shares some great tips free diving for succulent Coromandel scallops and catching sneaky snapper.
Hi, welcome to Fishy Business. Today we're talking about the Coromandel Peninsula. It's a fantastic piece of fishing real estate. You've got an east and a west coast and a top. And at the moment we're at the very top. This is a little piece of rock in the Colville Channel between the top of Coromandel and Great Barrier Island called Channel Island. It has a nowcasting station for weather, so when you hear Channel Island, this is the spot. It's hit by a lot of current. It's quite deep water. It's about 50, 60 metres all around it. And all that current and wave action makes it a really, really good fishing spot. Lots of oxygenated water. So what we're going to do is have a fish around and see what's hanging out at Channel Island at the top of the Coromandel.
The sounder was showing plenty of life and the fish were boiling on the surface. I was feeling pretty confident.
Woohoo! Hopefully I can convert this one into a live bait if I can get him back in the boat. Or if he doesn't get eaten before I get him in. And fishing can be like this sometimes. You know, you work having a bit of fun with a school of kahawai, and then you see a kingy, and you catch kahawai, put it out live, and that's how you sort of build up your day's fishing. And in the meantime, I'm having a ball just getting my arms stretched here. It's not always this nice out here. The Colville Channel's notorious when you get a bit of a southeasterly, bit of swell, bit of wind, it can get pretty rough. So pick your days when you're coming out here. And the fish are just boiling all around us. You'd think it'd be easy, and sometimes they can be, but not today. You've got to really work them out and work hard to get a bite. Whoa! That's what you call a fish farm. Oi! Hey! Look at that! It's impressive even if I'm not catching too many. Oh, I can see the little bait they're feeding on right over the side here. That's tiny. That's why we're not getting bites, because oh, there's a kingy. There's a kingy down there, I can see him. I saw him with my Polaroids. He's down chasing my kahawai. So what I'm going to do is just quickly rig up my live baiting rod and put this kahawai on. Oh, he fell off!
I changed to saltwater fly rod to make the most of the schools of kahawai that were proving quite shy to bite, thinking that a fly might be more tempting. When fly fishing, you retrieve the line through your fingers in quick strips to try and get the fish to bite.
Oh, yep, got him. I was just contemplating putting on a smaller fly, but I managed to get a hit. Whoa! Whoa! When you're fishing offshore islands like this, you quite often get one area where the bait schools up. And that's because the current's pushing onto it and all the food's getting washed to the surface. And that's why you've got these kahawai and trevally and all the other fish feeding on the surface like this. So all that upwelling does that. Here he comes, he's coming up. So what I'm going to do is rig up my live bait. And even a 30-pound kingfish will eat a kahawai of this size. Drop him in the water. I think something's grabbed my livey. I think he's picked it up. Yep, there's a big fish on here. We've persevered for a while. Working as school fish. And something big's eating this kahawai.
The line went light and the fish stopped pulling. The kingfish had managed to spit the bait.
What's going on here? Got my bait back. Got it.
Maybe I should have waited a bit longer before striking with such a big bait. After the disappointment of losing a good fish, I headed off to see if I could make good. I decided that some light tackle might be the go.
Yep. I'm on. Just below the surface on the slow knuckle jig. Cast it right into where the fish were working. Don't know what I've got here. We just moved out 2 or 3 k's from where we were fishing last because we saw some bird activity, and I'm a sucker for good bird activity. Normally in this situation I'd fish the bottom trying to catch snapper and kingies. That fought really well. I'll put that one on the net, and I think I'll take him home and put him in the smoker tonight, because he's a big fat kahawai. Oh yeah, wow, that's a pretty impressive sized kahawai. A welcome addition to our catch. Have a look at this here. Beautiful. That's got to go all of 3.5 kilos, that one. Fantastic.
Coming up, Kirk heads far and wide off the Coromandel coast.
What a beauty! My mission today begins at the beautiful seaside town of Matarangi, which is perfectly situated for fishing far and wide. The launching at Matarangi is into the sheltered Whangapoa Harbour and then out through the bar towards the Mercury Islands and beyond. It is great comfort to know that the Wave Runner has a huge 100-mile plus fuel capacity for trips like this, meaning I can enjoy the sights I get to see on the long journeys and then focus on the fishing. Just arriving now, 25 miles out off the coast, 200 metres deep. There's a bit of sign on the sounder showing it around the 200 metres. I'm on a bit of a edge of a contour, goes from about 160 down to around 200 in a reasonably small space. So I'm going to drift around it, drop some big baits down, see if we can get something to take it. The Lawrence was showing fish in around 180 metres of water, so there was no time to waste. Here we go. Let's get those baits in the water. What I didn't realise was that I was about to catch another new species for me on the ski. You can see the coloured braid there. That colour changes every 10 metres, and I've got about 300 metres of it on the spool. I'm fishing in about 200 metres, and there's not a huge drift, so I'm only letting out about 210 to get to the bottom, which is good. That leaves me a bit of spare if I get something that decides to pull a bit of line. Still got to be careful though, when you're down to the bottom of your spool, if something big hooks up, you've got to be onto it quickly. Oh, bite straight away, straight away. Yep. Fish on there straight away. Doesn't feel huge, but there is something on there. Could be a good live bait if nothing else. When you're fishing in places like this, the small fish are living there, but the big fish are feeding on them, so it might be a strange species, but I think if it looks like it could be eaten by something bigger, I'll just hook it back on or use it again. As I found out later, this fish was a yellow spotted gurnard. Bit of drag there. A similar fish to the red gurnard that we're all familiar with, but a deep water cousin. It looks like some type of gurnard. It is amazing. Let's have a closer look at him. And look at that. It looks identical in terms of shape to a gurnard. Its colours are slightly different. Its wings are slightly different colour, a goldy yellow colour, but still with that black marking on. It's got to be some type of gurnard, I've got no idea. He's not going to be able to swim away from this depth, so I'll take him back. I'll put him on ice, take him back, see what he tastes like. Got some big spikes on him though. Look at those spikes. That's what protects him from those fish down there in 200 metres. That's a sharp spike. Get one of those in you and you'll know about it. With the gurnard in the icy tech, I dropped down again for another go. Yep. Yep, fish on. Oh, yep. Right at the bottom. Right at that 200 metres. As I hit the bottom, something's grabbed it. Oh, some nice weight there. And now it's just, oh. Now it's a 200 metre fight to the top. Oh. Whatever this is, still got fight. Probably see I've got about half the line back there and he's still pulling. So he's 100 metres up off the bottom. Oh. And occasionally he gives a burst like that for the top. There's a lot of colour down there. I'm a bit worried it's a shark. It was a shark, and another first for me on the ski. The 6-foot taupe was hooked in the corner of the mouth, so he was the perfect candidate to be released. That is always easier said than done though, as they are renowned for thrashing around when caught and trying everything they can to get you with their razor-sharp teeth. Taupe are also known as a school shark and are often used in fish and chips. This one was going to get to live another day though, as long as I could get close enough to set him free. Look at those teeth. You don't want to get too close to them. I always keep a pair of pliers and line cutters attached to my life vest, and in situations like this, they can come in very handy. I'm just going to cut the hook off. Let him go. Off he goes. With the taupe released, I decided to move a few hundred metres and try a different tactic. Right, now I've switched to mono. The rig I'm going to use, still pretty simple. I'm down on sinkers, so I'm using an old jig. The bottom circle hook, I've got a dead jack mackerel and a bit of skipjack tuna. The tuna's there to ooze that oil. That's what I'm looking for. And on the top hook, I've got a semi-live jack mackerel. So let's get him hooked up. I'm just going to hook him through the nose, basically, underneath, around, and just out through his nose. Nice strong area, and what it should help to do is keep his mouth closed, which reduces drag. So there we go. Let's get that down there, see what's hungry. I'm moving it nearly a knot, and that might not sound a lot, but in 200 metres of water, that means you've got a really big angle on your line. As we all waited with bated breath, I got a serious inquiry. Here we go. Yep, fish on. Oh, yeah. Right at the bottom. There's a lot of drag there. Man, I hope it's a big pooker. That would be awesome. When haapooka are hooked in deep water, they'll often fight hard to stay down deep. However, once they start towards the surface, their swim bladder becomes overinflated and they become a heavy weight, much like a sea anchor. What is it? It's a pooka. Oh yes! What a beauty! Look at that! What a monster fish! That's why I come on these far and wide journeys, because you never know what you're going to pull up from the bottom. Seen so many species today, culminating in this big bad boy. Beautiful eating fish, beautiful fish all round. That's going to go on the Icy Tech, and I'm going to head on home.
Next up, Darren delivers up some superb shellfish.
I love coming back to this place. Whitianga just north of here is where I went to school. Slipper Island just off Tairua is a very popular spot to dive. Scallops are found on the sand in relatively shallow water. Some like to dredge for them. This is okay as long as the dredge is the right kind, which minimises damage to the sea floor and marine life. This is a good haul of scallops. Freediving for scallops is a healthy, clean way to harvest them. My dive buddy today is Mark McNamara. He's never gathered scallops before and is relatively new to the sport. I breathe up, relax as much as possible before each dive. The more time you take to prepare, the longer the dive. We are diving to around 10 metres. If you take your time, this depth is very comfortable for this type of diving. It's Mark's turn again. He takes his time breathing up, then descends slowly. Remember, he's never really done this before. He's a little apprehensive with this depth. Identifying scallops on the bottom is the next thing. He masters this with his first scallop on this dive. His ascent is a little faster than the descent. On the surface, I'm sorting the scallops for size. In this area, they have to measure a minimum of 100 millimetres. The wetty scallop bag has a handle that doubles as a measure. The small scallops fall back to the bottom. The legal ones, or the ones too big to go through the slot, obviously go in the bag. Mark's going really well now. I find hovering a metre above the bottom helps spotting them. The roundish circle in the sand is the telltale sign you're looking for. A clean bottom like this makes it really easy. We're allowed 20 scallops each and 20 for a minder or a skipper of the boat. Scallops account for too many diving deaths. It's easy on a breath hold to push it too hard, resulting in a shallow water blackout. Having a dive buddy directly above you is a good safety measure. They need to watch you come to the surface and then for around 30 seconds after the fact, as shallow water blackout can happen after you've reached the surface and taken a breath. It can be hard to see a diver on the bottom. Stay directly above them. If you can't see them, use a float line attached to your bag or the diver in this situation. Scallops have several major predators, one being the starfish. They move in on beds and can clean them out in no time. The other one's snapper, and of course octopus. Octopus love eating scallops. As I measure these scallops, I notice one is an empty shell. I'll tuck it back under my arm again and show you later what's inside. This was a good dive, most of the scallops go. Opening it with my knife reveals a dead tube worm of sorts. I'm not sure if this has killed the scallop then taken over the shell or moved in after the scallop is gone. They're ghastly things and the silt's just as bad. Scallops done, mussels are next on the menu. Mark gets stuck in straight away gathering a feed. While he's doing that, I've noticed some hungry snapper in the area. A few smashed up kinners over an edge soon has them falling into my trap. The surge is making a stealthy approach hard, but a good hold on the clump of weed holds me in place, out of their view. I wait for the right moment to take the shot. I love this sort of hunting. Scallops, mussels, and now snapper make it a tasty Coromandel dive. Scallops wrapped in bacon or steamed in white wine are my favourite.
Fishy Business is proud to support Legacy.